time, but I overslept.
Which is a shocker because he put me in my truck. So
Yeah.
he must have gone back in and that doesn't usually happen.
Yeah.
At all.
I get up somewhere between 3:30 and 4 almost every morning, and if I can catch another quick nap, it really makes it easy. It's hard when you're up in a tree to catch that second nap, but I was tired. Yeah. So at any rate, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. I was going to tell you I got stuck in the blood pressure machine down at Kroger, but not true. Just gave blood Friday. My blood pressure was 99/66. Serious. That's what I've heard. Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you to the Worthingtons for teaching the last 2 Sundays while Jerry and I were relaxing at in Michigan, where the high one day was 6 degrees lower than the low was here. And on the way home, Jerry said, "What would you change?" And I said, "Nothing. I'm ready to go home. You know, I can only take so much vacation." I said, "How about you?" She said, "I can stay another month." Weather was good. We had good visits with friends. Went out on a pontoon boat where Jerry was raised at the lake that she was raised on, and got a chance to visit with a lot of her friends. So had a great time. Got to go to the Holland Bowl Mill where they make bowls commercially. Thrilling, I'm just telling you. Highlighted the trip.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, you have some visitors.
Yes, and
They're not really.
hold on.
Go ahead.
First thing, I put something on your chairs. It's a list of things Brookwood is collecting for the Louisiana Baptist Children's Home Fall Food Drive. Pastor mentioned it in the service. Also, on one side is that, and then the other side is Southern Baptist Convention disaster relief, things that they need. And there's some receptacles all over that can take that if you want to just bring it sometime this week. But there's a lot going on. And our Mike Johnson put on Facebook that he recommended 2 people. One of them I've never heard of. The other one is
Samaritan's Purse.
Samaritan's Purse, that are really doing a wonderful job down with
Rolling Hills? Was it Rolling Hills?
No, it wasn't.
They fed 10,000 people this week.
Convoy and Boat. So anyway, either one of them, and Juanita Rodriguez, who's in this class usually, she had some stuff go down Friday, and I completely lost my mind and provide that. So if you want to do things, these are some avenues. This right here is, and if you want to bring it in and put them in the kiosk or just take them to the office, you can. And the items on that list I gave you. If you want to take extras, I have extras here, and there's extras on other chairs there. Okay.
Okay. Any other announcements? Jerry also has some visitors to introduce us to.
Bob and Francis.
They're visitors, but they're really not new to
They're
us.
not visitors. I mean, they are visitors to our class. They're joining our class, and we're just tickled to have them.
Excellent.
And so we have some people that came all the way from Houston.
What?
Kim,
We're glad that-
her husband.
Okay.
I'd like to introduce Kim Wilkie, and her husband David is in the next worship service with our son and his wife.
Excellent.
And we're trying,
We enjoyed having them in our home.
Oh, they're staying with you.
and we're trying to get them to commute every Sunday.
We commuted. Any other announcements before we get started?
I do have one.
Pat.
It's not exactly an announcement, it's a prayer request from Patrice White.
Okay.
Their niece, Kristen, who's been having the seizures, has gotten exponentially worse. She's in ICU. They don't want it to be published because she has small children, but I can share with you that she actually died. She floated yesterday morning, and they had to bring her back. She's been intubated. She's the mother of small children. The doctors have been trying to figure out for several years now why she's having these seizures, and they can't figure it out.
We are done with this book. You can trash them or whatever you want to do with them. I had exchanged emails with one of our paid staff this week about our lack of enthusiasm for the book. He didn't ask me why. He just said he was sorry, and I said we're going to venture out on our own. So the questions that you pick up on your way out today are going to be, we're going to be studying Romans. Don't need a book to study Romans. We have a book that will help us study Romans. I recommend a study Bible. Some of you may find a commentary helpful. I use somewhere between 8 and 10 different sources to prepare lessons that we do have books for. And one of my frustrations with this is the duplication. And I have kept track of all of the scriptures that this book has gotten us through. Next week they want us to be in Matthew 28:16-20, which is exactly the same lesson we had on March 22nd. I don't know how many lessons I can be creative in giving on the exact same scripture passage. So we're venturing into Romans on our own.
Are we just gonna start at the beginning and work our way through it?
Yes, ma'am. And we'll just take it at our own pace. There's no extra book to buy. You can't get lost in volume 3, session 10, pages 132 to 140 and all that. So, Gary?
I said most of us have years left.
I'm glad to hear that you think you have years left to live. Hope that works out.
Rise out of Ronnie, but I know.
Yeah.
It's working.
Before we get started, we have a word of encouragement from our local freak. Paul, come on up. Yeah.
Yeah, word of encouragement. Okay, how was your summer? Was it good? How many people had a good something to write? Mine was terrible, and I'll tell you why. Am I on camera?
Now we got your good side.
This side, okay. So, I'm a teacher. Of course, most of you knew that. I taught for 33 years, middle school band. I taught middle school. I mean, I don't know why I taught middle school, but I think that's where I was supposed to be, and I'm crazy. So, you know, I can relate to a middle school kid better than I can relate to Ruth. So, and she has to talk to me in those kind of terms. So I was there for 33 years, and then I retired in 2011, and I got a job in Bossier City Schools for Talented Arts. I worked there for the last 7 years as a talented arts teacher, go into the class, teach kids music, that sort of thing. But that's just my passion. I'm a teacher. Come May 20th, I get a phone call. I'm driving to teach lessons. Imagine that. Mr. Tinker, this is so-and-so at the Bossier School Board. We can't renew your contract. Why? I'm driving. Why? Well, you were hired as a substitute teacher, and that's in violation of your retirement. And we have TRSL, Teachers Retirement System of Louisiana, has come up and audited the books, and they have fined us $17,000 because we hired you. My first question was, why did it take 7 years for you to tell me this? Well, you just fell through the cracks, and you know, and I'm sorry, but that's what happened. So I was like, huh? So I drove to and I'm trying to teach a kid lesson. So I called HR, and that's human resources. I called HR and I said, this is Paul Tinker, da-da-da-da-da. What happened? They called me back. And the head of HR for Bossier School System called me back and said, well, you were hired as a substitute teacher, and according to the law of TRSL about coming back, you can't be doing that. You are not a contract person, you're not a part-time person, you can't be hired as that. So we have to let you go. We know how good you are at this. You found your niche. This is your passion. and this is coming from an HR person, she's complimenting me. I don't know if that's, she's trying to soften the blow, or there's something else that's gonna happen. She's gonna drop a bomb, pour more salt into the wounds. I don't know. But she's being very nice to me. I said, thank you. And I said, well, if anybody has any juice, like you have some money you want to give somebody to a politician down there, I want my job back. They thought that was funny. They said, no, we can't do that. I said, well, okay. I really like working for you people. So I called TRSL the next day, and they said, well, that's true. Under the current law, you can't work there, and we just found out about it. I said, it took you 7 years to do it? Yeah, we just found out about it. So they got fined, at least you didn't get fined $17,000. So I thought, oh, wonderful, that's great.
Yeah.
So I hung up the phone, and of course, you know how I felt. I was like, how am I going to replace $1,000 a month? That's basically what I was bringing home, about $1,000 a month. How am I going to replace that? And then on top of that, TRSL reminds me that I have gone over my allotted limit. I can only make $10,000. I went over $2,500. So I called them back. I said, look, I've just been terminated from my position. What? I can't pay this, because the year before we went over $3,200 because I taught at Northwestern. That's not bad. I taught at Northwestern, did some other things, but we didn't watch the money too closely, and so we had to pay that back. I said, I cannot pay back $2,500 all at once. I can't do that. Can you give me a payment plan? So they did. They gave me a payment plan of $350 for 8 weeks. So I don't have a job. I just had the retirement, and they're going to take it out of my retirement. She has Social Security. I've got a little bit of Social Security. Yes, $81 a month. Hey, okay. We're excited. And so for the month of June and July, I'm like this. I didn't stop reading my Bible. I didn't stop praying. But if you've ever been through this, those prayers are kind of like, I'm here. Okay, I'm reading my Bible because that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm praying to you, Lord, you know I want to teach. You know that's my passion. You know I want to teach. Please let me have a teaching job back. So I immediately texted Northwestern. I taught adjunct last year, texted Northwestern twice, no response. I started talking to people, band director friends, and said, look, I just lost my gig at Talented Arts. Can we do sectionals? I contacted 2 people at Bossier. I contacted a kid in Wascom, the middle school band director and the high school band director. I'm teaching a kid from Wascom, which I thought was an in, that God put that kid in my house. So I'm teaching him, and I taught the middle school kid, so I called the middle school, I emailed the middle school band director. He emailed me back, we don't know what's going to happen because of this virus, da-da-da-da-da, and I understood that. So I had no avenues. I was thinking, maybe I ought to start driving, go somewhere, because I got to make that $1,000 a month. We're used to that. Got to do that. My lessons never stopped. I had Zoom lessons. The band house opened up. I started teaching lessons. I just want to kind of throw that because it's going to come in play later. So Dave offered me a job cutting trees. And I said, is that a job offer? He goes, well, kind of. Because I kind of told him about what was going on. And Ruth said, you're not working outside. You're too old to work outside. You can't do that. So, okay, well, I got to find something to do. So I play a job at July 5th. March 14th was the last job I played. Okay? Then the virus hit, boom, done. And the band I played with, the guitar player died behind me. Sax player over here had it. I experienced it. I felt what it was like to be, have somebody die with this stuff. So in July, I played July 5th at Cypress. The former music director's wife just retired. She told me the legislation is looking at passing a new law saying you could go back to work. Really? Yes, it's supposed to pass August 1st. So I started doing my research. Of course, I couldn't understand all the jargon, couldn't understand all the stuff, but it sounded like I could go back. So I immediately texted my supervisor, emailed my supervisor, my immediate supervisor. I said, look, I just heard about this new law. I'll be able to come back. Da, 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 da. What do you think? So I texted my team leader. I said, I'll be able to come back. Well, I don't have her. I'll text her, let her know. I immediately emailed HR, and my supervisor emailed me back and said, well, as last I heard, it was a no. Okay, it was a no. When God shut that door, but I want to teach. That's what I want to do. I love teaching kids. I love teaching middle school and high school. That's what I want to do. I want to teach music. I just want to pass on my passion to kids. So, I get another. I didn't hear anything back from my supervisor, and so I didn't hear anything back from HR. So I called TRSL again. We became really good friends. I called TRSL and I said, okay, explain the law to me. Well, here's what the law says. Da 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 da. You can go back to work. Okay, great. So I immediately emailed HR. I said, look, this is what the law says. Da 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 da. I've already contacted number 2 in HR, and they said I could come back to work, but they're really hung up on. They're not real sure about what's going on. You know, you're not real sure. So the TRSL person said, I will call the person in the number 2 person. They didn't have to do that. I said, look, I really like this job. They called the number 2 person. Number 2 person called me back in 15 minutes and said, look, I'm ready to hire you. I'm just waiting for my supervisor to tell me what to do. Now, they had been fined $17,000 in the 18-19 school year because of me. I don't know if they're going to get fined again for the 19-20 school year because I was in violation. So, I didn't hear nothing. And my supervisor said the last I heard was a no. I didn't hear anything. And so I'm sitting out there, and this is August. And of course, this whole summer, I'm like, you know, we had the shower, and I'm going through some changes. I hardly told anybody. I think I told Dave, I told a few other people. I told my sister, told a guy in Pittsburgh, but I told very few people. I told very few people about what was going on. Because, you know, when you start getting this stuff, what do? You clam up, you get private. And I understand that. And I was like, I'm still going through the motions, but man, I was devastated back there because this is what I want to do. And all of a sudden, boom, it comes out of nowhere that I get terminated. Then boom, I got to pay back $2,500 out of $300 out of my retirement. So I finally emailed the person, as Bruce said. I found HR. I said, look, I don't know. I know, and I'm being really nice, which is surprising for me. I know some of you think he's nice. So I emailed and I said, look, I know you're really swamped. I know I'm the low man on the totem pole. I understand that. But just let me know where I stand so I can go on. 15 minutes later, hey, Mr. Tinker, it's good to hear from you. Yes, you're welcome back to Bossier School Board. Yes, you can have your job back. Da, 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 da. I went, I immediately got in and I texted her. I said, look, I just got my job back. Oh, what? And she was jumping up and down like James Brown. It was great. She was so excited. She started texting people. And then I look at my phone 15 minutes later, hold on, from the same person, hold on, we have one more thing to check out. I was like that. Oh, then they took it away. I'm like, really? Okay, God, I know you're messing with me. What's the deal? You shut the door, you almost open it, but then you shut the door again. What are you trying to teach? What's going on? And I'm like, okay, I'm upset. Of course, everybody else will be upset. And one of the reasons I'm going through this today is the first thing excuse me. So, it came back a no. That was a no. They said, they checked the next morning, it was a no. So my supervisor called me. I looked at that number, I went, oh boy, what more stuff can you put on? She said, look, they met, the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer said no. Okay, all right, thanks for telling me. Wow. was a Wednesday. I had lunch with Dave on that Wednesday. And that happened after we had lunch. I don't know if it was Ichabod or whatever, but it was after lunch. So, I get a call Thursday morning. I just come out of the gym. Hey, Mr. Tinker, it's my supervisor again with that 5,000 number. I was like, oh, geez, what more stuff can you tell me? You've told me 3 times. No. Hey, what are you doing? Well, I just got out of the gym, so that's why I'm a little out of breath. Do you want your job back? This is what I did. And Ruth thought somebody had died. I kept, oh my God, oh my, you're, what, you what, huh? And I reached out for her hand, and she said, somebody, and she's like, what's wrong? I just got my job back. What? And she was excited, but then she wanted to slug me because she thought somebody had died. But the CFO, the head of HR, and number 2 HR had a meeting about me Wednesday. They had a meeting about me Wednesday. And they said, we can hire. Now, I cannot tell you what I went through this summer mentally. God never forgot me. He never let me be destitute. The only hiccup in my life this summer was not having a job and not knowing where I was going to go, what I was going to do. Not knowing that. See, I'm the kind of person, when I got retired, I had a job right after that, and then I got into this talented arts thing. Now, if you don't think you influence anybody by what you do, by what you say, by how you act, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Because when I got the first wonderful news back in May that I was terminated, I found out that my supervisor was very distraught to tell me that. I found out later that she went to the HR person and said, look, I don't care, can you just give him 2 French horns and a tuba? Just let him teach something. I really want to hire this guy. She didn't have to do that. When I turned my computer in on that Friday, that was kind of like the last thing. I turned it in like this because I didn't want to let it go, but I turned it in, and there were tears in their secretary's eyes. There were people that were just shaking their head. There were people hugging me. I've just been there 7 years. I was just being me, trying to make people laugh, trying to be a clown, just trying to make people feel better about themselves, because that's what I want to do. Making sarcastic comments, of course you know that, but just doing that. And the amount of love that I received from those people when I left was, I'd never seen. And for the HR person to tell me, they don't have to take that time to say that to me. You found your niche. Boy, we really appreciate the work you've done. You've done excellent work. I'm like, who are these people? They don't talk to people like that. But that's what I got. So, I got the job back. And through the whole time, my financial needs were met. I didn't lose a step. It was all mental. It was all mental. God wanted to, I think he was testing me to see, am I going to remain obedient? Am I going to still pray? Am I still going to read the Bible? For a while, I was lost. I had no idea what I was going to do. I was distraught. Now, as soon as all of this stuff transpired, I got back, I got the gig back, I was da-da-da-da-da. The first thing that came into my head was, you got to tell the other Sunday school classes. And I didn't tell I'm not telling the Sunday school class, I'm not telling you because I'm better than you. I'm not telling you, look at me, look what happened to me, look how good no. I'm telling you that I went through it, and I didn't do it like what people would say. I want people to look at me and say, look how, oh, poor Paul, look at him, oh, no, because I hardly told anybody. Man, you know what the mental problem was? Satan. Look at you, you don't know what you're going to do. Where are you going to make that $1,000 a month? What are you going to do? how are you going to provide for her? How are you going to do that? Oh my gosh, you have no options. Everybody's turning you down. Every door shut. Every door shut. And I had to say things like, yeah, God has a plan for me. How many of you been in there? You just say the words and emotionally you don't feel it. How many of you been there? You've been there. You know it. I did it. Some people were telling me, oh yeah, another door will open. I don't care. I want that door to open now. No, another door will open. You know, he won't let you go. I didn't want to hear that stuff. I was so depressed about it. But you know what? He knew that. He took care of that. He just wanted to say, hey. And then we had other things going on in my life too. That was devastating for both of us. Not only did I lose the job, I had to pay that money back, we had other things going on too. So, but you know what? I had to say every day, even though I didn't believe it, okay, Lord, I know you're doing something. I want to teach, Lord. That's all I want to do. Please let me teach. But if I can't teach, show me how to get through this. So I say this to you, if somebody is going through this or somebody you know is going through this, tell them, look, some freaky guy in that Sunday school class who doesn't look like he amount to anything went through the same thing. And you know what? It was just temporary. I look back on it, it was just temporary. But I just wanted to share that with you. I felt that somebody in here needed to say that. And once again, I'm not above anybody else. Man, I make more mistakes than all of you. But God honored me. He honored me putting feet to it. I just, a lot of people pray, so, well, Lord, change this situation. Then you don't try to change, you don't put a foot out there. I put a foot out there. He said, no, 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 no. Okay, yes. Oh, wait, no. Good, remember? Got the email and the boom. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. Then it was finally yes. And look, I had been back. It's like I'd never been gone. I'm a little bit behind, but I've never been gone. And it was just like, and I tell people, God did it. He opened that door. Because all those doors were shut until he opened the last one. And it's just God did it. And that's the only way I can explain it. I can't explain it any other way. Why would the chief financial officer, the head of HR, and the number 2 of HR, why would they have a meeting about me? The guy that cost them $34,000, and they still let me come back. I guess I'm supposed to be there. That's all I want to say.
I'm kind of glad he's not in a tree where you go.
Well, I didn't know that you could get to an age where you're too old to work outside. Did you know that, John?
Yeah. Too old, right?
Yeah. Turn to Luke 14. Luke 14, 25 to 33. It says, large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And anyone who does not carry his cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it? For if he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, this fellow began to build and was not able to finish. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Will he not first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose the one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off, and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple. So question number 1, does anybody need questions for today? Jerry's got extra copies if you need questions for today. Question number 1, Luke 14:25 states that large crowds were traveling with Jesus. What was their motive And why would Jesus tell the crowd such harsh things as he did in verses 26, 27, and 33? So what motive did the crowds have in following Jesus? Ruth? Yeah. He just got done feeding the 5,000, a free meal. At the end of the Gospel of John, it says that Jesus did so many miracles that there wouldn't be space enough on earth to store the books if every one of them was recorded. So I think that they were following him for what he could do for them. But what harsh things to say. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father, his mother, his wife, his children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. If anyone does not carry his cross and follow me, he cannot be my disciple. If any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple. Well, I think he's definitely questioning their commitment. Yeah. Yeah. There was a priest between them and God. Ronnie.
I think he wants the crowd to realize that he's number one. He's what you need to be focused on, not the earthly things here. You need to be looking at it.
Okay. We're going to get into that in just a minute, what that means. So I think he wanted them following him for the right reasons, not for the miracles, the food, the healing. But I think he wanted them to follow him for the right reasons. Which segues to question number 2, which is, what did it mean to carry one's cross in Jesus' day? And how is what Jesus was asking different from when the Romans caused someone to carry their cross? And how are they the same? So what did it mean to carry one's cross in Jesus' day? Who did that kind of thing? It means you were going to die. If you were carrying your cross, and if you saw the Passion of the Christ, you saw Jesus carrying the crossbeam of the cross. The pole was already out there, but they made the prisoners carry their own crosses. What are the similarities between what the Romans had them do and what Jesus asked us to do?
If we carry our own cross, it means that we have to die to sin. It's the same thing as what he did.
Okay. Other similarities. When the Romans had you carry your cross, was it voluntary? No. But Jesus is asking us voluntarily to pick up our cross. There's suffering involved in both. There's submission involved in both, and sacrifice involved in both. Question number 3, in what ways is being a Christian like being a Navy SEAL? List the positives and the negatives. Both have a mission. Bless you. They both require discipline. In some cases, they are highly trained. The SEALs are highly trained. Sometimes we are. Jerry, what do you know about the Navy SEALs?
Well, we started after World War.
Okay. Okay.
And, I looked up their, motto, which I thought was kind of cool. They're all for one, all the time. We're all for each other all the time.
Okay.
And they have a shared sense of purpose. And we also do it for fun. So that's the, well, I think that's, like, pretty much, like, and, it's interesting.
you are a Navy SEAL, you have volunteered to be a SEAL. They don't just take anybody. In fact, there's a high dropout rate. But if you're a Christian, it's because you have volunteered to be a Christian. Both involve sacrifice, sacrifice of will and sacrifice of individual desires. Both involve suffering on some level. Both involve submission. SEALs are always submitting to their other team members and submitting to a mission. Christians should be submitting to other believers and to God because we are on a common mission. And both of us are cogs in a wheel, small components of a larger entity, which all sounds relatively negative. Are there any positives in being a Navy SEAL or being a Christian? There's camaraderie in being a SEAL. So after they chase you into the surf, and then have you roll in the sand and go without sleep for 23 hours and eat dog food, there's camaraderie in that, to know that you're not the only one doing it.
I don't put on you. You put on yourself.
Okay? Positives to being a SEAL or a Christian.
I think a lot of it, I think the military, when you first go into the military, they try to break you. And with the Navy SEAL, they're trying to break you
Definitely.
to get to the point where you know what you can withstand and you know how far the limits are gonna go to be pushed. So, you know, I think it's the same way when you're a Christian, when you explain to a non-believer how you are programmed in your commitment with Christ. So,
You know, there's an interviewing technique that I've used before where when you first meet somebody, you ask them, tell me about yourself. What do you think comes out first?
how good they are, what are they doing for what their job is, what their family is, what, you know, never, the first words out of their mouth are, I'm a Christian and I go to such and such church, or I'm a member of such and such church. They normally tell you some background about themselves.
And what is the first thing that they usually tell you? It's what's important to them. It might be, I'm married for X amount of years with so many kids. It might be what they did for a living. If you were to ask a SEAL, tell me about yourself. You just met this guy on the street, tell me about it. You're in the elevator, tell me about yourself. What do you think he's gonna say?
He's not gonna tell you he's a SEAL.
No, I think he will.
I don't think so.
You don't?
I don't think so.
We don't do that.
We don't do that?
No, I don't think so.
Probably tell his
Well-
accomplishments.
I can tell you, if I ever made it to being a SEAL, you would know about it.
My man, I say, I spent 33 years in the military. It's all no, we don't do that. We're not supposed to advertise that.
I don't, you know, knowing what it takes to be a SEAL, I think it'd be the first thing I tell anybody. I think I'd be telling the cashier at the drugstore. Maybe I'm different.
Well, that's probably why you're not a SEAL.
I think there's other reasons why I'm not a SEAL.
See, when you do that in a conversation, oh, I'm this, you're boasting about yourself. And I don't, and that's not, their job is not to boast about themselves.
I don't think it's their job to boast about themselves, but I think if I ever survived
Yeah, but
basic
I don't-
training,
Just in a normal conversation, when the first time you meet him, he's not going to tell you that he's a SEAL, or he's an ex-SEAL, or he might tell you that he was in a branch of the military, but he's not gonna give up that.
Normally, we're told that when someone says that, you better check the records.
yeah, no, I have heard that.
There's a guy that's down here at Lowe's, wearing a cap.
about whoever does not carry their cross. When you read the rest of it, it says, and follow me.
Mhm.
And a lot of people try to carry their own cross without actually paying attention to Jesus. That's where they get themselves into trouble. Ministry can do this and get away from following Jesus. And so it's real careful. We have to be real careful. When we decide we're going to pick up our cross, we better keep our eyes on where Jesus is going. We don't be off doing something we don't need to be doing.
Excellent comment. My thing with the Navy SEAL and the Christians, in both cases, I think it's a defining moment in your life. If you have somehow made it through SEAL training, it is a defining moment in your life. I could be wrong about it. If you talk to a SEAL, it'll be the first thing he'll tell you. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I think in his own life, in his own thought process, it's a defining moment that he has become a SEAL. If you are a Christian, a true Christian, I think it is a defining moment in your life if it's done right. And I think it becomes the biggest thing in your life. And I think that's what the message in this lesson is, where Jesus said, if you don't hate your mother, father, wife, children, brothers and sisters, then you don't have a right relationship with me. I should be the number one thing in your life. So I ask you to compare today's lesson that we just read to three different parts of Scripture. The fifth commandment, to honor our parents, and then there's a passage in Mark and one in Timothy. So verse 26 says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, etc., he cannot be my disciple. And then you contrast that with the fifth commandment, which is honor your father and mother. How do you relate those two seemingly contradictory passages?
My translation said the follower must love me more than. So I like my translation better. Because I shouldn't have to hate my parents in order to love Jesus more.
Okay? Somebody
It's
else?
definitely a priority. I mean, he's more of a priority than your wife, your spouse, your children, and all that.
Okay. Let's try another verse. Mark 7, 8 through 13 says, and this is Jesus speaking, you have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to the traditions of men. You have a fine way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses his father or mother must be put to death. But you say that if a man says to his father or mother, whatever might help you otherwise have received from you, have whatever help you might otherwise have received from me is Corban, that is, a gift devoted to God, then you no longer let him do anything for his father or mother. Thus you nullify the word of God by your traditions that you have handed down, and you do many things like that. So if you get what's happening here, Jesus is condemning the Jews for their practice of Corban. So a Jewish guy could say, I see that my mom and dad are elderly, they're destitute, and I've got this big sum of money that I could help them with. And when they say, hey, could you help us out? They say, gee, we've got this big sum of money, but I was giving that to the temple. Sorry. Good luck. And Jesus is condemning that. He says, you should take care of your mom and dad. Just like the fifth commandment says, just like he's recommending in Mark 7. We'll throw one more in, 1 Timothy 5:8. If anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for his immediate family, he has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel or an unbeliever. So how do we resolve Luke 14:26, hate your mom and dad, with three other passages that all agree that we should honor, provide for our parents and families? And the answer is, in the interest of time, Kelly.
Okay.
Go. No, you go.
This is another case of text without context. If you put it into context, hate in this case isn't he really saying love so much less? I want you to love me so much more than the distance between how you feel about me and how you feel about others that you love is huge.
That's it in a nutshell.
You don't
Hate in this case is a lesser love. Jesus is speaking in hyperbole. Jesus is saying that we must love him even more than our immediate family, so that our love for Jesus is so intense that our love by comparison for others looks like hate. That's what he's saying, and it's a hyperbolic statement. Question number 5, do you think that we have watered down the requirements for following Jesus, and if so, how?
Are you saying as a world, as a people, or are you saying as a Christian?
As a Christian, because I don't think anybody else is going to try to share Jesus with people. So when we witness to people about coming to a relationship with Christ, do we water down what that really means? Yeah, I think so too. I think we.
We that was preached a little bit more, matter of fact.
No, I did. I was the guy with the sheet marks on the side of my face when I came in. It seems like we are eager to share the good news with people, but tend to shy away from the costs of discipleship. So here's a question. If an unbeliever you are witnessing to asked you about the costs of believing, after you have shared this passage, if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. You just shared that with him. And he said, are there any costs that I should know about? What would you tell him about the costs of discipleship? It's going to cost you everything. That's pretty high cost. That's everything. Well, there's the answer to the question I was about to ask. What's everything? It changes your priorities. It changes your schedule. It changes the way you spend money. It changes the way you spend time. It changes what you read, what you watch.
And it's going to, it's not going to be a free ride. You're going to have trials. You're going to go through some really hard times.
Yeah.
And you, Prime Master, 27 years.
17.
Oh, 17 years. Right?
Thank you, Kat. Thank you.
How's that? All right. Well,
It's like a
yeah,
fish,
yeah, yeah.
it's like a fish story. Over time, it gets bigger and bigger.
Indeed.
It's a fish story, yeah, it's a fish story. But yeah, you're just because you witness to somebody and say, listen, this is what you need to do. You can't sugarcoat it. It's not going to be a free ticket, free ride. That everything is going to be cream and honey and sugar the whole way through. The trial part of it, you're still going to go through the hard times. But with the belief in God and strength in God, you're gonna get through those trials.
Well, Paul and I were having lunch at Ichiban when this thing, he'd been told no, yes, no. And we're at Ichiban waiting for the decision. And I only had his partial attention that day because of his cell phone. He kept looking at it saying, has my life changed yet? Has my life changed yet? And I said, you know what, Paul, this is a faith thing. If Romans 8:28 is really true, no matter what that thing says, it's going to be to your benefit. It's a faith thing. And I think that's what's so encouraging about this. Regardless of the outcome, somebody grew through this. A freak like him can grow, the rest of us stand a chance. Question number 6, in practical ways, what does Luke 14:33 mean, and how does Colossians 3:2-14 relate? And we know that verse 33 says, any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple. So in practical ways, what does this mean? Does it mean we all have to give away everything we own? Does it mean we should be willing to give up everything we own? Yeah. We've taken trees down for 2 different people in the last couple of weeks, both of whom are in the process of cleaning things up so they can sell their house and move to an apartment, or in one case, an assisted living facility. And they've been living in this house for 30 years, 35 years. And this one lady told me the biggest problem I've got is I've got too much stuff to take to my new place. And I just can't turn loose of it. And I said, can I tell you something my parents would tell me? When they were downsizing, they took several steps to downsizing. Their stuff had been in our family for 50 years. They had to get rid of it. And my mom said, it's just stuff. When it's down to it, it's just stuff. You don't see a hearse with a U-Haul behind it. You're not taking it to heaven with you. It's just stuff. Give it away. Get rid of it. So we are really to be stewards or managers, acting like all of this stuff that we have, whether it's money or possessions, it's just ours to manage. And it might be that it's better off in somebody else's hands. So here's the Reader's Digest version of Colossians 3, 1 through 14. It says to set our hearts on things above. Set our minds on things above, not on earthly things. Put to death whatever belongs to your earthly nature. And that lists them: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. And then rid yourselves of these things: anger, rage, malice, slander, filthy language, and lying. And instead we are to clothe ourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other, forgive each other, and over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. So Jesus does not want your stuff. He wants you. Last question. I ask you to list what are other names for Christians and list them in order of commitment. Kelly.
Larry and I came across it in our reading last night, that we start out as believers.
Okay.
We become followers, as we're called, and as we respond to the call.
Okay.
And as we continue to grow, we become disciples, or we hope to become, we strive to become disciples, which is hard.
It is hard.
So it level of commitment.
I'm sorry, Mel? Finally saints, maybe? Okay. All right. Anybody else want to chime in? Other names for Christians?
Little Christ.
Little Christ, that-
Is little Christ.
Yeah. I used a thesaurus. What's another word for thesaurus?
Crossroads.
I used a thesaurus, and it came up with 25 different definitions or synonyms for Christian. So when somebody tells you today, I'm a Christian, what does that mean to you? Really? Okay.
That's what makes it so shit.
Okay. All right. I mean, you ever see people's business cards and they got the little fish on it? What's that mean? Thank you. It means nothing to me. And when somebody tells me they're a Christian, you know what that means to me? Nothing.
Now, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
You just said a minute ago that when you ask somebody, tell me about yourself, you want to hear the first thing that they say. So if they say, I'm a Christian, does that not tell you that that's what's most important to them?
But he's not saying that's the first thing they say.
That's an opening gambit to me. Now we're going to see.
Then you look to see how he acts
Yeah.
after he makes that statement.
That's why if you're in a plane that's just lost its last engine, you got about a minute and a half. It's okay to tell the person in the seat next to you the plan of salvation. But if you have a neighbor that moves in next door, I recommend not telling them that you're a Christian. Hi, here's a plate of cookies. Did I tell you I'm a Christian? Because you're going to be under the microscope from then on. What you should do is mow their lawn, fix their kid's bicycle, do anything you can do to show them that you're a Christian, and let it dawn on them that you're gone for a couple hours every Sunday, and that you have a boss who is in heaven. So I heard believer, follower, disciple. Some of the suggestions in the thesaurus were Presbyterian, Lutheran, and Methodist. None of whom I think are Christians today as a denomination.
I put church
Yeah.
member at the bottom of my list.
Church member at the bottom of the list? Good. Good. I'd be at the bottom of my list. Kathy? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were giving me a, okay. How about this? Words don't have definitions. They have usages. Okay? So when somebody says I'm a Christian, maybe a generation or two ago that might have meant something. Today doesn't mean a lot. Let me pull something when we talked about followers and disciples. In John, Jesus had large crowds following him. These are two of the saddest verses in the Bible. In John 6:60, it says, on hearing it, many of his disciples said, this is a hard teaching. Who can accept it? And 6 verses later in John 6:66, it says, from this time, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. So disciples and followers both just got downsized to non-believers, I think. I was in Barnes & Noble a couple of years ago, and there was a tall, thin, black guy that was teaching 3 long tables of kids that ranged from 2nd grade through high school, all kinds of things. He was helping the little kids with their math and reading. He was helping the older ones with calculus and trigonometry. This guy was smart, and he was great at relating to the kids. He could understand the obstacle that they were having trouble getting over, and he could discern it very quickly and help them over it. And I was it's in the magazine section, so I was overlooking at fine woodworking and kind of absorbing what was going on here, and there must have been 15 kids that he was helping. And at one point he said to the kids, okay, time for a break. Go to the cafe. And so I walked up and introduced myself, and I said, what are you doing here? And he said, these are kids that are struggling in school, and I'm helping them. I said, man, I think that's terrific. I'm trying to figure out his motive. And I said, are you a believer? And he said, yes, I am. I believe in hard work. I believe in investing your life in the lives of these other kids so that you can help them. I believe in this and this and this. What should I have asked him? That would have been a lot better than the way I asked it. Maybe, are you a Christ follower? Are you doing this for, or maybe an open-ended question, why are you doing this? Labels will probably fail us, but the thing that won't fail us is the way we live our lives, the way we spend our time, our talent, and our treasure in the lives of other people. We've all been given a spiritual gift to be used for the building up of the church. We've all been given time, talents, and treasures to be used in the lives of others, to build them up, to make them hungry for a relationship with Jesus like the one that we have. So you have your assignment next week. Any questions? You can pick up questions for next week on the way out. Prayer list will be being assembled, and Jerry will email it to you. If you're not on our Sunday school email list, let Jerry or Kathy know, and they'll get you on.
When do you start enrollment, and are we gonna do verse by verse, chapter by chapter?
We are starting enrollments a week from today, and I'm breaking it down depending on how much content is in there. This week we're going through, it's going to be we're starting in the front left-hand corner, chapter 1, with verses 1 through 17, I think it is. And next week or the week after that, we'll pick up 18 and go to the end of that chapter. So we'll take, depending on content, we're just going to take it as it comes. Any other questions on that? All right, let's close in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for another day on planet Earth. Father, we thank you that we have your word. We have all of your word, and we each have copies of it that people in foreign countries that are sharing portions of it would love to have. Father, help us not to take our leisure time for granted, but help us to spend it wisely. Father, we know that at our ages, we don't have most of our lives in front of us. We are no longer, for the most part, middle-aged. We don't know how much time we've got left, but help us to use the time that we do have wisely and for your glory, so that when our time comes, we will have no regrets. Father, I thank you for this church. Lord, I ask that you would be with the leadership of this church, that they would lead us in a way that is honoring to you. Lord, I ask that you would allow us to be good followers and loyal. Father, I thank you for this class, and I pray this in Jesus' name.